Okay, so this is part 3 of our Zeitgeist rebuttal, 10/28/07, and this last part is the refutation of Akarsha S's book, The Christ Conspiracy, by Mike Licona. Now this is from www.answeringinfidels.com. Now this guy, what he does is he goes up there and he refutes a lot of people in a biblical sense that have taken shots at Christianity and things of this nature. Now, the one thing about it that I don't agree with these supposed scholars that do this, although he does a good job here, none of them ever have a comprehension of what the Bible is. They don't ever, they'll use NIV and all these other translations. So essentially, what I've tried to do in this is go in there and cut out any of the Bible verses that are where I'm actually cutting and pasting them out of there, and I'm just leaving you the Bible reference so you can go read it. Okay, so this is from him, and this is just excerpts from this article. This is so voluminous. This is so huge. There's so many references. There's well over 100 references in this one article alone. Okay, so I'm just going to try to hit the high points. Okay, on this, Akarsha S, who wrote The Christ Conspiracy, which is what the Zeitgeist movie is based on. Okay, Akarsha S is a skeptic with an interest in mythology who has written the book The Christ Conspiracy, the greatest story ever sold. No, what she's selling is probably one of the greatest fallacies ever sold. This book represents an hypothesis of how Christianity came into being, although it has received no attention from scholarship, with the lone exception of a negative book review, and that from an atheistic scholar. How much worse can you get? Even the atheists don't even buy it. The Christ Conspiracy has nonetheless gained support from a number of laypersons. The occasion for this paper is to assess Murdoch's major claims in a brief manner in the terms of their accuracy and whether her book is a worthwhile contribution on the origin of Christianity. In other words, I believe that's not a real name, Akarsha S. Murdoch is actually part of her real name. Okay, so this is what we're trying to do here. We're trying to see, is this really a worthwhile contribution to the origin of Christianity? Is this Christ Conspiracy? The paper will sample some of her major claims in this book. No attempts will be made to defend the Christian worldview. Okay, in other words, the information will speak for itself. Okay, the information is just going to speak for itself without even having to defend the Christian worldview. Of course, I'll do that. But I think in order, he's trying to be objective here is the point of this. Akarsha, which is what she refers to herself, means guru or teacher. Well, let me tell you something. If you follow this Akarsha S, this guru is going to lead you straight to hell. Her actual name is D. Murdoch. But, Akarsha sounds so much more spiritual. She's probably getting in touch with her inner child as we speak, possibly even contemplating her navel. I don't know. Throughout the remainder of this paper, the author will be referred to as Miss Murdoch. The thesis of the Christ Conspiracy is that pagans and Jews who were Masons from the 1st and 2nd centuries got together and invented the account of Jesus Christ. Oh, that's so. And his disciples, in order to create a religion which it hoped would serve as a one-world religion for the Roman Empire. Now, we've already talked about how the Roman Empire and the Roman Catholic Church figures into this. Okay, so that's a very important key to the puzzle. I think that was on part 1. But, so make sure that you listen to all 3 parts of this teaching. This religion would be a collage of all other world religions and combined with astrology. Well, that's exactly what the one world religion of the Antichrist is going to be, and most likely the Catholic Church is going to be the head of the whore. Okay? This, of course, is a radical and unorthodox picture of Bible-believing Christianity. However, being radical and unorthodox does not invalidate a view. Notwithstanding, if Miss Murdoch's picture of Christianity is to be believed as correct, she has to be accurate in her assessment of the details of the other religions she cites in terms of the similarities with Christianity, because that's what they do in the Zeitgeist. They constantly compare Hinduism, Buddhism, paganism with Christianity. But like I said before, she doesn't even get her paganism remotely correct. Okay, so She has to be correct, though, in order for the movie to have validity, right? Isn't that fair? She needs to be correct in her assessment of ancient astrology, correct in her peculiar datings of the Gospels, and must be correct regarding her teachings on the Freemasons. If she is incorrect in any one of these, her hypotheses must be altered or abandoned. It is when we look at the areas of astrology, comparative religion, New Testament higher criticism, Freemasonry, and other issues, we find her to be incorrect in every single one of these areas. Every one. Astrology, this is one area. Miss Murdoch claims, remember, she's the one that wrote the Christ Conspiracy that the Zeitgeist movie was based off. Miss Murdoch claims that as myth developed, it took the form of a play with a cast of characters including 12 divisions of the sky called the signs of the constellations of the zodiac. The symbols that typified these 12 celestial sections of 300 each were not based on what the constellations actually look like, but represent aspects of earthly life. Thus, the ancient peoples were all able to incorporate these earthly aspects into the mythos and project them onto the all-important celestial screen. End of quote. Based on this understanding, she claims that the mythical Jesus recognized the coming of the age of Pisces, the fish, thus the Christian fish. Now, every single thing here that I'm getting into now is massively referenced, okay? This isn't opinion. This is basically documented references. It is true that astrology played a large part in the formation. No, if it is true. Or no, is it true that astrology played a large part in the formation of Christianity, as Ms. Murdoch asserts? Now, I've already went into the fact that the Bible clearly condemns astrology. Okay? Noel Swerdlow is a professor of astronomy and astrophysics at the University of Chicago. He has specialized in the study of the practice of astronomy in antiquity through the 17th century. I emailed Dr. Swerdlow on this matter. Now, in other words, he's emailing an expert in the field of astrology. This is all this guy does. He lives and breathes astrology. I think that's a guy I'd want to go to if I wanted to know something about astrology. Is that fair enough? I'm not saying he's not pagan. I'm not saying he's saved. But he's going to know a lot about astrology. Fair there. So he's a doctor. He emailed Dr. Swerdlow. Here's what Dr. Swerdlow had to say about Mrs. Murdoch's view on the Christ conspiracy of astrology. In antiquity, constellations were just groups of stars, and there were no borders separating the region one from another. In astrology, for computational purposes, the zodiacal signs were taken as 12 arcs of 30 degrees measured from the vernal equinox. Because of the slow westward motion of the equinoxes and solstices, what we call today the precession of the equinoxes, these did not correspond to the constellations with the same names. But within groups of stars the vernal equinox was located was no astrological significance at all. The modern ideas about the age of Pisces and the age of Aquarius are based upon the location of the vernal equinox in the regions of the stars of those constellations. But the regions, the borders between those constellations, are a completely modern convention of the International Astronomical Union for the purpose of mapping. Did you hear what I just said? I said all that to say the one line. These constellations are a completely modern convention of the International Astronomical Union for the purpose of mapping, and have never had any astrological significance in times past. I hope this is helpful, although in truth what this woman is claiming is so wacky that it's hardly worth even answering. So when this woman says that the Christian fish was a symbol of the coming age of Pisces, she is saying something that no one would have thought of in antiquity, because in which the constellation of fixed stars, the vernal equinox, was located, was no significance, and it is entirely an idea of modern 20th century astrology. In other words, these things that they say go back all these hundreds and thousands of years to all these other pagan cultures with astrology, a lot of this stuff wasn't even invented until the modern day age. And let's face it, they didn't have the telescopes and the things that we have now. So that's from an astronomist. Okay? In other words, the ancient Christ conspirators could not have recognized the 12 celestial sections in order to incorporate them into the Christian myth and announce the ushering in of the age of Pisces, as Murdoch claims, because the division into the celestial sections did not occur until a meeting of the International Astronomical Union in the 20th century. Therefore, her claim is